And we're live. So look, it is Wednesday, May 14th. And I still haven't unloaded my car, so I don't have the book, which would give me the answer to all the questions about what to say about May 14th. So we're going to hold that off. That program is starting tomorrow. It is 8:01 a.m. It is the year of our Lord 2025. It rained hard in Washington yesterday, and that was a message to the Russians. Don't mess with the sunflowers. They are under divine protection, not just the protection of the cameras, but the protection of the Lord God on high, almighty, and all that jazz. The Lord of Lords, the hosts of hosts, the delusionally self-important one. Look, the sun isn't shining. It's going to rain more today. There's a flood warning in effect in Washington, and
There's a pause though, so
yeah, it's kind of like, all kinds of stuff. There is a pause. It's not currently raining. The birds are chirping, and I am convinced that it is going to be a great freaking day.
You're watching Dog Shirt TV, an acting revolution in morning television.
You are watching Dog Shirt TV, and it is a goddamn revolution in morning television. And one of the revolutionary features, of which, in case I've never mentioned, there are many, is that we may have a guest today, or we may not, just depending on whether he and his translator show up. And if not, Holly and I are just going to shoot the shit. And if so, Holly and I will still shoot the shit, but we'll shoot the shit with a very interesting guest. And another one of the revolutionary features, because as I say, there are many, is that I can merely say I don't really know what happened on May 14th, and the Greek chorus can fill in so many options. For example, on this day in 1948, David Ben-Gurion declared the Israel's statehood. It is Mark Zuckerberg's birthday, so we've got lots of May 14th news and gossip, and for all I know, some of it is even true. Holly, Berkley, Fletcher, we are not allowed to have fun anymore, but we are allowed to have a highly indeterminate show that may or may not involve a guest of unusual interest, or just may involve the two of us shooting the shit. How are you this morning?
which people love that, by the way.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
just love that, when it's just us and we have no agenda and we just ramble on about nothing. We get so much positive feedback. People love it.
see, we used to call that on In Lieu of Fun. We used to call that cheese night. And the reason was because I don't remember how it came to be called cheese night because one day we got a lesson about how to make cheese from Scott Shapiro, and so cheese night just became the name for things when you don't have a guest and you just sit around and eat cheese. And so we would whenever we didn't have a guest, we would just post that it was going to be cheese night. Now, of course, you and I
Like
can't.
cheese.
We do like cheese, but we can't have cheese night because it's in the morning.
Why can't we have cheese morning? Why
We
can't you eat
could.
cheese all day? I eat cheese all day. It's very European to have cheese at breakfast.
Yeah, no, I am pro cheese. And I'm happy to have cheese morning. It doesn't have the same ring to it as cheese night,
True.
but But I do have all kinds of images scattered all over my computer that I would use for the thumbnail for cheese night with elaborate, you know, cheese displays and
What's your
stuff.
favorite kind of cheese?
Well, my favorite kind of cheese of what variety? Because different cheeses serve different purposes.
What are some of your favorite kinds of cheese of across varieties?
So my favorite just day-to-day eating cheese, for sandwiches, for whatever, is Jarlsberg. Hands down, I
Is
prefer
that
it.
a brand or like a type of cheese?
It is both. It
I've
is a
never heard of this.
Norwegian cheese
Mhm.
named for the Jarlsberg family, I believe, and it is a brand, but it is also kind of a type. And I don't understand why people make, grilled cheese sandwiches with anything else. Norwegian Jarlsberg is the thing.
I'm gonna have
Um,
to check this out.
but I mean, look, I would be wrong to say that I prefer that in a with wine and sitting outside over a kind of sheep's milk brie with you know uh, you know like a sort of fine runny cheese situation. How about you?
Um, I
What cheese do you prefer with South African wine?
well, we love
It
manchego
is
in this
it
house.
is National Receptionists Day, according
Yeah,
to
which is
Frank in the
seems to be a
chat.
bit of a throwback to an earlier time when
George Lucas's
we called them
birthday.
receptionists. Anniversary of great grandfather's suicide, Carol.
In,
Dark.
International Chihuahua Appreciation Day.
I have a part Chihuahua that I sometimes appreciate. Does that count?
I don't.
I don't
Um.
always appreciate
Yeah,
him.
I've almost never heard you say a nice word about Lilo.
Oh, but I love him. He's so cute. He's so cute. And he's also an asshole, so but he's very cute.
So Manchego, it's a little
So
too
I like
salty for
manchego.
me.
No, I like salt. I like the salty cheese. And actually, so my latest cheese discovery, and it's not in all grocery stores, and I can't remember the brand, but I discovered these like basically single serving tiny bries, and it
Do
is a
they like
life.
explode in your mouth like a chiclet?
No, they're like a little mini brie. It's like a Barbie. Like if Barbie was gonna have like a cocktail party, this would be the perfect size for Barbie's well, it'd be a little big actually for Barbie. But you could see it in like at the Barbie dream house on like a cheese board. It's about that size. And it's single serving, so you don't go crazy. Like, because you can, cheese, the thing is about cheese is like, it can get really out of control. And then before you know it, you have eaten like 5 billion calories of cheese and your arteries are clogged and you're constipated. So single portion cheeses that are actually good cheeses. I also like the Baby Bell Goudas. Anyway, I appreciate that, and these are my latest thing that I really enjoy.
Well, I have a big hunk of Gouda in my fridge
I
right
like
now
Gouda.
because my mother was just in Holland and brought me back a big hunk of Gouda.
I love Gouda. I'll come over with my salad. I do need to, I am gonna do another drink with me. Actually, since we're just shooting the
What
shit,
if we did drink and project with me? We
that's,
could
oh yeah.
combine,
What are we gonna, let's set
it
it
would
up.
be like South African wine and at the Russian embassy.
Or, yeah, no, we don't want to bother the South African embassy. I was gonna say we could do supportive, like,
No,
but
because
they
the
don't want to do that. They don't
the
want to
thing
do that.
is that they're like South African foreign policy is bad
I
enough
understand that. I
that
understand South
I
African, but
I
it
don't
is
want to
democracy.
do. Yeah, no, look, I'm pro South Africa um as long as it is the object of the sentence. Trump is doing bad things to South Africa. I'm going to defend South Africa. But the
Right. That's
problem is whenever South Africa is the subject of the sentence,
fair. Fair.
the story gets a little complicated.
Anyway, I was gonna do the next drink with me, and the topic was gonna be this refugee situation, correcting some factual errors that are out there, and drinking some South African wine. And I could make the point that as far as I have yet to locate a South African vineyard that is owned by a Black person.
That's
There
interesting.
probably exist. I probably need to do a bit more Googling, which, and again, like, I don't have, white South Africans are South Africans. They contribute to the economy. They employ a lot of people. A lot of them do great things in the community. In Western Cape has always been the center of sort of liberalism in South Africa. And so I don't have anything against these vineyard owners, and I will buy and drink their product. But I'm just saying that it is, emblematic of, debunking the lies that are out there, that I've yet to find a vineyard in South Africa that is owned by a Black South African.
Yeah, so, look, the problems with wealth distribution in South Africa are a legacy of apartheid that is recent. It's 30 years ago that apartheid ended.
Very not long ago.
It's not long ago, and the wealth concentration was almost total,
Yes.
and it has not really been undone because the ANC, unlike Mugabe, has had a real limit to its demagoguery and self-destruction. It's not that it is above demagoguery and self-destructive impulses, but there have been limits to it. And so it has not destroyed the economic engines of the country. And that means maintaining to some degree a certain degree of or a high degree of wealth inequality. And how you balance that stuff over time, how you do land reform in a reasonable way, how you, uh, you know, these are very, very hard questions, and the right answer is surely not to leave, what is the white population, 7% of the country or something?
Um, Around that, it was at one point it was 20%, but it's gone down since. Yeah, and the what was I going to say? Yeah, economists have really, I think, understand quite well what creates economic growth, but wealth transfer without damaging the economy is something that we have definitely not mastered.
It's very hard.
It's very
I,
hard.
I'm trying to think of the countries that have done it well over the years,
I mean,
and
it takes a long time, though, is the thing.
there aren't many of them. The ones that have, I mean, it would actually be an interesting. I'm sure there is a political scientist who has studied and an economist who's studied, you know, in a comparative fashion, land reforms over time. Um,
Well, I think the land reform, if I can interject, is a bit of a distraction, or it's a symbolic thing. I don't actually think, certainly young South Africans, I don't think South Africans, these particularly young Black South Africans, I don't think they want to go be farmers. The land is symbolic for general wealth, and what they really want is good jobs. That's what they
Yeah,
really want.
but wait a minute. I accept that a lot of people don't want to be farmers, but I suspect that the people who are working that land are there's probably a lot of black day laborers, right?
Yes,
And those people probably do want to be farmers.
and they
And
have a lot of expertise as well. So
right.
yeah, good
And
point.
and the question of look, Mugabe showed that you can if you do this badly, you dispossess a huge number of people and you wreck your economy real fast. And I don't know if you were going to hold out the country that did this well, I don't know what country you would look to. I know
Yeah.
where I would start, um, but I don't know. I would start by looking in at Costa Rica or something. Countries that have um, longer democratic traditions and um, uh, but come out of a hacienda system, right? How did they manage that transition? But I don't know what Costa Rica's. I just made up Costa Rica here, but
Well, in other countries, like for instance, Kenya, where there's been, well, there wasn't a blow, it wasn't necessarily fully white to black, but there's definitely been a, you want to grow the middle class ultimately. That's kind of what you want to do. And whether that's by, wealth transfer, like land or jobs or whatever. But in Kenya, it's been investment and job creation is how you've grown the middle class, and better, more welcoming economic policies that makes investment more attractive, as well as more political stability that makes investment more attractive. So in Kenya, land has also been, and I know probably more about Kenya than South Africa, although I know a decent amount about South Africa. But in Kenya, land has also been a very symbolic issue because obviously it was taken and by white settlers, and then since independence, an absurd amount of land is owned by the presidential families. Like it's like 13%. The presidential families, which there's only the Kenyatas, the Moys, the Kibakis, and the Kenyatas. Same. So really, there's only three, and then Ruto is kind of a late stage comer. Most of his wealth, also ill-gotten, is not necessarily in land. It's like businesses, hotels. He has a fair amount of land, but the original three, like, uh, presidential families own something absurd, like 13% of all arable land in Kenya. So it is an issue, but Kenyans are kind of moving on from land, per se, because again, it's jobs that people really want. And as there's more economic growth and as the middle class grows, the land issue is less emotive.
yeah, I mean, look, land is important in agrarian societies. It's less important in urban societies, except in the sense that lands can be very productive, particularly if you're in places like South Africa, where, these are, or Zimbabwe is the prototypical example, where, this is a breadbasket of one of the major agricultural producers of the world, or at least it was. And you have this enormous economic engine that's producing value for a very small number of people.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I
it's
do think there's a residual equity question there that is pretty brutal. Um, but look, I don't want to tell countries how to handle these situations, and they're complicated questions
very,
and they're
very.
difficult questions, and there's many more ways to do it badly than to do it well. What I do think is that outsiders shouldn't demagogue this,
Oh,
and
really?
that
Especially not when it's a democracy and they're going through their established, democratic legal order.
exactly, outsiders, you know, it is these are hard questions for democracies to work through. They're going to come up with messy solutions. It is not true that there is a genocide going on in South Africa.
Definitely not.
And people, the president said that the other day, that explaining why he was privileging refugee admissions from South Africa over, say, uh, countries where there really is a
Yeah,
genocide
you know
going
what
on.
he's not concerned about, apparently, because he's in the region right now, and I doubt he's going to raise it, is the genocide that the UAE is funding in Darfur. I doubt he's concerned about that, and I don't think he's taking any Sudanese refugees.
Right, exactly. And similarly, he just lifted sanctions on Syria. There is no longer a genocide going on in Syria, but boy, was there, the number of displaced people, the number of people who the Assad regime had killed, was staggering. And, he was among those lining up to say, our posture is that we don't give a shit. And then there is Ukraine, where, we are talking about very, very large numbers of refugees all over Europe. We have 400,000 people under TPS here, and he's chronically threatening to revoke that status. So please don't give me there's genocide going on, even if you're limiting genocide to white people, which, by the way, you shouldn't. Like, the concern about genocide shouldn't actually be dependent on skin color. Just a little
Yeah.
concern there. Like, the ratio of Ukrainians to Afrikaners threatened is really, really big.
For sure.
And
Absolutely.
that's before you get to Afghans, Haitians. Haitians, it's not genocide. It's more gang shit. It's but it's
Still need refugee programs, though.
yeah, I mean, it's a completely valid refugee crisis. And by the way, one that, unlike some of these other ones, we did more than our part to help create. That is not true in Ukraine. That's not true in South Sudan or Darfur. But, we have some historic involvement in the creation of Haiti as a failed state.
For sure.
More recently, we've tried to be good actors in that, but, not that long ago, we were pretty bad actors in Haiti. So I just think if the president is concerned about genuine refugee issues, which he clearly is not, the plight of Afrikaners in South Africa is low on the list of what should be.
Absolutely. The Greek chorus has found at least one wholly black-owned winery in South Africa, which means that I will then be on a mission to find a U.S. distributor.
Yeah, and we can find out also how much are the tariffs on,
Well, I know this is shocking to say, and really says, I don't know what it says about me. I'm ill-informed and ignorant and apparently can't keep up, but I'm actually confused about the tariffs at this time. I don't know how I could possibly be confused when it's so clear. But,
well,
again,
the policy's been so straightforward and just, easy to understand, Holly. I don't know where the confusion comes from.
Well, it's an intellectual deficit, clearly. So I'm confused on what the current level, and I've actually tried to find out, but my research skills are obviously not very good. What the current tariff is on South African product. It's still quite high on Lesotho. From what
because the Lesothans they've been taking advantage of us for years, Holly.
Yeah.
Just, everywhere I go, there's somebody from Lesotho with his hand in my pocket, and it's been pissing me off. I don't know. I can't
For a
keep
long
that.
time.
I can't keep that monologue going.
The Greek chorus has tons of suggestions. I think there's part black-owned wineries in Franschhoek and Stellenbosch. Anyway, we will look into this, and we will get some black-owned South African winery wine. But I'm just saying, like, proportionally, they are owned, because, like, again, these businesses go back hundreds of years in some cases. And the wine is very good, and I don't have any objection to the wine. And because, and again, wealth transfer is very hard. And the Greek court has also brought up that the U.S. has not done a great job at wealth transfer. That's that's an understatement. Like, obviously, after slavery, it, someone said it was a failed land reform. I don't really even think it was. It was not even really tried, to be honest.
Well, it was tried
Um,
for a very short period of time.
and
Um,
very limited, very,
but
very limited.
so, but the U.S. wealth transfer story is actually super complicated because it is extremely good at transferring wealth from uh, historic elites to immigrant communities.
Sure.
And
Although I think it was more of a creating new growth rather than transfer, like it's a
it's
little bit different.
both.
Yeah.
It's but yeah, we have a way of, growing um genuine middle classes and then elites out of immigrant communities of all kinds.
Sure.
And we do that even while uh as a aggregate matter, Black communities and Native communities have stayed pretty poor. And so our wealth transfer story is actually a really complicated one, replicable at it, very attractive in certain ways and very unattractive in others. And
Well, I think it speaks to it speaks to the power of history and sort of systemic injustice because, and apologies for using such a woke terminology, but again, if you don't believe that slavery continues to and Jim Crow continues to have, I mean, all you have to do look at Black immigrants and African Americans.
right.
The wealth disparity. Now, granted, they're coming in. A lot of the Black African immigrants are the really well educated and connected, and they sort of come in. A lot of them come in with some wealth, but still, like on average, like it's a huge disparity. So it's not just enduring racist attitudes, although those are clearly there as well. There's obviously a hangover still
Well, and
from
there's
all of this.
and there's um 100 layers of uh things being it if things are a little bit more difficult in X way and a little bit more difficult in X way and a little bit more difficult in Y way, right? You layer relatively small effects on top of each other and they compound. And if you're a and they compound in ways that are very dramatic and powerful over time. And I think that's honestly just true. Um,
Generational too. I mean, you can get down into just the effects of trauma on genetic, on the genetic code. I mean, it's like there's real scientific evidence of generational trauma and impact over time. But honestly, the best book I've read on is a novel. Have you read Homegoing by Ya Gyasi? Oh my gosh. That is the best book. If I was still teaching history, I would assign that book because it shows you the impact of slavery generation after generation, and not just in America. She follows this family on both sides of the Atlantic. And she goes generation by generation by generation in this story, and it is so illuminating and very powerful. So highly recommend that book.
all right. We have squandered half the show.
Oh wow,
Um,
we're so good at
yeah,
this,
we're really good at
honestly.
this. What um as EJ would say, tell me something interesting.
That's a lot of pressure, but maybe I can get people's advice on what I should do with my life. Just, just ideas or my time.
What should Holly be when she grows up?
Um, so I have like I've been throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall, which is fun and whatever, but sometimes I have decision paralysis on a day-to-day basis in terms of like, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do this, but how should I sort of budget my time? Um, so I have a few projects that I want to
By the
do.
way, I've just taken on a new title, which you can see in the Chiron. And so I am now qualified to give you life advice.
Well, you do though, and you've given me really good life advice, actually. So I appreciate this, and the Greek chorus has been giving good life advice. So obviously, I am writing on my Substack twice a week, which is fine. I don't think I need to do any more than that. And I'm writing for other outlets occasionally. I've been doing this kind of 2-track, like some Africa stuff, like foreign policy stuff. Frankly, I'm thinking that's not what is giving me joy. I might still do that on occasion, but I'm doing more like essays and focusing on American religion and politics and things like that. So there's that. So then just the fun, crazy stuff. So I have 2 parodies I want to make. But parodies take a lot of time, and they're probably not worth my time. The cost benefit is definitely way over into the cost. I enjoy them and I enjoy making them, but they take a lot of time. So it's probably not worth it. But I have 2 ideas and I have the lyrics mostly written if people want to weigh in. The first idea, and I can do neither of them or both of them if people think it's a good idea. The first one is I have a parody of Alanis Morissette's One Hand in My Pocket about living in this world where we're moving into autocracy and yet life is pretty normal. And it's pretty good. I think it could be funny, but it's called One Foot in Autocracy. The other one is a parody of U2's Pride, but it's like No Pride. And it's basically like all the ways that people have sold their soul. All these people have sold their soul for Trump, like in the name of Trump, basically what they've done. And I think that could be quite compelling. So I'm doing art, which I love doing the art. I have to say that cost benefit for me is benefit. Like that's a plus. So I can keep doing that. Okay. And then all of my activism. So now, did I tell you I'm volunteering for the National Park Service now?
No. What are you, can you volunteer for the park police so that you can police the,
Yep.
area that I project from at the Washington Monument and not enforce the law against me?
Yeah, no, they don't take volunteers for that. So I'm actually not sure. It's not clear if I'm supposed to, because so it's not a Hatch Act situation because I'm a volunteer. They can fire me, I guess, but like it's obviously when you're on duty and I'm like a docent kind of thing, you're not supposed to get into politics, obviously. So you're just volunteer Holly and you have no opinions about the current state of things. You're just talking about, in my case, Dwight Eisenhower. I'm at the Eisenhower Memorial. So you're just talking about Dwight Eisenhower. Although I will say you can present some facts about Dwight Eisenhower that do make very subtle statements that will probably go over the heads of most people. So anyway, I know I can't, but what I don't understand is whether I can say like on my Substack, like, hey, I'm volunteering for this, or on this show, like maybe I'm violating the rules right now.
I can't imagine the statement of fact that you are doing this is a violation.
Combined with though, obviously I'm like have strong opinions about everything.
Yeah, but you're allowed to have opinions.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not clear. Like,
I have a question that arises out from the Greek chorus. Why don't you run for office?
Oh God, no, I don't want to do that.
I think you should run for office because you would be a hilarious candidate.
But what would I do? Oh, I would be a disaster. Okay. So first of all, what would I run for? I hate like bureaucratic crapola. I do not go to the PTA meetings. I do not go to these community things. I hate that
No,
shit. I hate
you could be
meetings.
like the Marjorie Taylor Greene of sanity, like not be an actual
Okay,
legislator.
but what am I going to
Just,
run for here? It
I
would
don't
have to
know.
be like school board or something like mind numbing like that. I'd have no desire. State legislature,
No, you
oh
don't want to
Lord.
run for state
And also,
legislature.
all of our incumbents are fine. I would have to primary an incumbent, and I don't know about that. Anyway, I am volunteering for I'm canvassing on Saturday for the first time.
For Abigail Spanberger.
Yes,
So it's
yeah.
like
You want to come canvass?
uh later in the season.
Yeah.
Yeah,
This
yeah.
is just for the primary. Yeah, it's
Yeah. I'm not gonna
yeah.
Democratic primaries.
I'm gonna take you out canvassing
I will
later
do
though.
it. Yeah.
Um,
I think that you should uh uh uh
I could
follow
be the
in.
administrator of Doge.
You could be the administrator of Doge. Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, the cactus already thinks you are, apparently.
yeah. Or maybe the cactus is the administrator of Doge. Yeah,
It's a strong possibility.
yeah. So somebody said I need to just follow my joy. The problem is I have too much joy, and the joy is scattered widely. And
I think you should become a cult leader.
well, I'm
You
trying, Ben. I'm
you
trying
have
really
you
hard.
have the perfect background, which is you grew up in extreme religion, so
Yeah,
you're charismatic. Um, you you uh you're there's nothing you won't try, which is important if you're gonna try to get people to drink laced Kool-Aid
yeah. And I'm not afraid to fail, just to be
yeah.
clear.
So I think
My things are not working out, just to be
I
clear.
think becoming a cult leader is and you've got a CIA background for Mystique. You've kind of got
That's
you've
mainly what it is.
you've got everything you need for a successful
Yeah,
cult.
except the narcissism. I mean, I am pretty egotistical, but I wouldn't say I'm a narcissist.
I don't know. I
You think
agree
I
you're
could,
not a narcissist, but you could fake it.
maybe I am a narcissist and I don't really realize it.
Well, that is one of the things most narcissists, I think, don't
I
know
know
that
they don't realize it.
yeah. And so, how do you know that you're not like all other narcissists and just don't get it? But look, I'm just saying, to whatever extent you're not a narcissist, you can fake it. And, and, just remember all sentences begin, but and then if you just do that for long enough, you can kind of fake it till you make it. Um, and you want to, like, you don't want to half-ass it. You want to be the head of a really abusive cult, and it should be organized around the activism stuff. So you get nice, good people involved, and then, exploit them for money and power.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not I'm
Notice how Holly is just not commenting on this at all,
well,
and
here's the thing.
she's
Here's
just
the
like,
thing.
I am just ignoring you
No,
because
I'm considering the thing. Here's the thing though. Being a mom is a little bit like being a cult leader, and I'm actually not a good mom at all. They ignore me all the time. They're completely out of control. And the thing is like control is it's a lot of work, and I don't want to do that kind of work. I want people to manage themselves, and I want to manage myself, and that's what I'm not good at, like control and like logistics
how
and
about a multi-level marketing scheme?
no.
It's kind of like a cult, but it's uh
It's like sales stuff. Yeah, no,
yeah, but you don't do the sales. You just get other people involved and recruited to not sell things.
okay. I need to focus your life coaching for just a little bit. Like, here's the thing. I like all the things that I'm doing. It's just a matter of, I feel like I'm spreading very thin. I'm not sure. Like, I feel like I need to prioritize and focus a little bit more. But
I'm trying to help you focus on things that will increase your power and influence and godlike omnipresence.
Okay. All right.
Holly,
Anyway, if anyone,
notice, folks, how uninterested Holly is in world domination here. She
I'm
has
so uninterested in that
she
actually.
she has a life coach who's here urging her to exploit and dominate people, and she's like, "Yeah, I just want to make uh, pretty things to raise money for."
Which,
For
speaking of
protect
failure,
democracy.
I'm
Um,
kind of mystified. So my last fundraiser for the Ukraine thing, which I'm still selling the Ukraine, to be clear, I'm still will make you a Ukraine flag and art. But the last one was like gangbusters. Like I got so many orders like immediately. And then this latest thing with the American flag, which I would think people would like that. It's very cool. I'm going to do some text on the next one I make, and see how that looks. I'm not doing well.
See,
Yeah.
this is because you didn't exploit the first group of people and make them oppressed and need you for so that you could then sell them a second one.
Yeah, John Hawkins says I hope Holly upped her price. I upped the so I had the flag painting for sale before on the site, but not for charity. So I did up the price. It's the same as the Ukraine flag one for the American flag, and that I feel like has actually been detrimental.
It would be
If you
really
up your
interesting.
prices, you will sell less.
It turns
This is
out.
this is like how the market works. So yeah, there's a balance in there. Oh, good. Marichka's here, so I can shut up.
Marichka is here, and she's here with a guest. But she's got to make herself visible and make the guest visible.
Oh, hi everyone. Unfortunately, the guest is not here. So I'm
Oh,
so sorry for it. I'm so sorry.
then you are the guest.
Yes, again, again, Marichka. But we did a couple interviews with him yesterday, and I will
Wait,
be
so tell
posting.
us who he is and
Yeah,
tell us a little bit about him in his absence.
yeah. So here in the United States right now, we have a Ukrainian guy named Vlad. He's 19 years old, and in his 16, he was stolen, basically abducted by Russia, and put in a Russian military academy to be trained to fight against Ukrainians in the nearest time. So, and you may be wondering, like, how could you just come and stole a person? How can you kidnap a person? How can you do that?
Yeah, where is he from?
So he's from Kherson, and as you know, in the beginning of the war, Kherson was occupied. So when they were sitting with their family has 8 kids in a grandmother's village, and then after 2 months of sitting in a basement with the constant shelling, they were able to return to actual city of Kherson. And one day, when his mother was not at home, 3 Russian military guys with a rifle just knocked at the door and told him, "You have 30 minutes, you have to pack, and you go with us." He only left a little letter for his mom. He was shocked. He packed the stuff, and they put him on a bus. He had no clue where they're going and for how long. First, they brought him and another guys like him to Crimea, and other people he met there, they told him they will be away for 2 weeks. Then they put him in one camp, then in another camp, and then in a military academy, and he understood it may not be a week, 2 weeks, or even more. And he ended up being in 2 camps and then military academy for about 9 months. So he's here in the US right now because he was saved thanks to the organizations we have in Ukraine right now who are helping.
How did he get
parents out? So basically, he was not allowed to use his phone, and every attempt to speak Ukrainian, every attempt to search for something Ukrainian or call someone, they would be punished. But one day, when he realized that they are about to give him a Russian citizenship, and they were actually telling him like, you know, when Ukraine will come, you should be able to fight back. So now we will train you. And they were training this kids, 16, 17, 18, you know, to be able to fight. They give them the uniform, and you know, they were having a specific schedule. And again, I'll send you the interview so you can listen to what he's saying. But they are waking up 7 a.m. They have to sing Russian national anthem. Then they eat. Then they go and read some Russian literature. In the end of the day, definitely pro-Russian movie. And you always have to learn every day what good Russia did to Ukraine, how many territories it got, and all the creepy stuff. And so when he realized he would be issued a Russian citizenship, he violated the rules. He called his mother. When they returned him the phone, it probably had a chip already or something, but he called his mother. And the mother found the organization Save Ukraine, which actually brought him here right now. So there are many details, but Russians interrogated her first time for 12 hours. Then they were keeping her in a basement for a couple days. They were asking her many, many questions. And then they didn't give her Vlad back until they make a propaganda video where they're both stating that Russia is the best country. They're not intending to leave Russia, because she actually went to Russia to take him. They're not intending to leave Russia. Russia is the best, very good, very helpful, taking care of kids and all the stuff. And of course, she said everything because she needed to take her son back. And so that's basically how they came
And
back.
then they left and
Yeah, but I would stress that and emphasize there are not that many instances of that.
Right.
It was just a pure luck
where
that they actually let them go.
and where is he living now?
Now he lives in Kiev. He lives in Kiev, and his mother's staying in Mykolaiv with other kids because they're younger. And he's, you know, pretty much independent right now after all he experienced. And, you know, he had he was telling yesterday, very bad situation of, I would say, even emotional and physical abuse when one day he put the NATO star with his friend. They were playing, and they put a NATO star with like a pencil or something on his body, and someone from the camp get to know about it, and they interrogated them. They asked them to stand completely naked with a piece of paper stating their name, and they were kind of, you know, beating everything around, crashing all the furniture to, you know, make them feel scared and not do something like that again. Or one time, and this story, like, specifically, I'm shocked out of the story. Every day they were supposed to put Russian flag on and cheer it up and sing national anthem of Russia. And instead of Russian flag, one day he put his underwear there, and it was
You mean
actually
on the
waving.
flagpole?
Yeah, for quite a while. So they put him in a solitary confinement for 7 days. They didn't want him to return back to society and talk to other kids, because there were some pro-Russian kids who were already under propaganda and some pro-Ukrainian kids who were just keeping it a secret with him separately in the closed rooms. So they didn't let him speak with these kids. They want him to be completely alone. They want him to be isolated. And also, after a couple of instances like that, he just stopped doing it, because he realized the guy who, for example, is taking care of their group, right? He told he could make your life impossible. For example, he could make your way to find food impossible. So you will not get any food today if you have a bad behavior or something. And he was in a more and more time spent in there. He had a lot of thoughts of suicide, unfortunately, but he was trying like, no, I have to stay. And this is again, he turned 17 in the military academy. 17.
So how long was he in captivity?
9 months total, 2 pre camps, and then most of the time I would say like 6 out of this month, but he could not recall for sure because he lost the count of days.
Yeah.
6 months approximately in this military academy.
Well, we would love to have him on the show, either from Washington while he's in town, or if when he's back in Kiev, if any time that he and you can join us to, I take it he would need a translator, yeah?
Yeah.
Well, let's arrange a time since today didn't work, and thank you for joining and describing the situation.
Thank you for listening.
Marichka, I follow you on Instagram and see like all the cool things that you do. How long have you been in the United States, and how did you sort of get into all of this activism?
Great question. I think I'm in the United States less than 3 years. When the full-scale invasion began, I was in Ukraine, and I had similar situation to Vlad. I was in the occupied suburbs of Kiev, and I couldn't really get out like for a month and a half, I think. And then when I left, I was studying in Germany half a year, and then I come to United States. And first I was just studying here. I got a huge scholarship in Allegheny College, Pennsylvania. So I didn't really have enough time to do anything else. I was doing some campus activities, for students, for people of the city I was living in, but definitely not something like I have right now. I kept studying in my Ukrainian university at nights. So I was doing more like day shift in college and night shift in Ukraine. Then when I left college, it was just exchange year. I kept studying at night for 1 more year. Then I had different internships in
Marichka was
California,
working really hard that
in
year.
DC. Yeah, it was
She
a
was
very hard
working
time.
full time in DC, and then would stay up all night because that's when the classes were in Ukraine.
Yeah,
Wow.
and I've got so many troubles with my health because of that. So never do that. It's a very bad, even if you're young, it's very bad. Not gonna work for sure. And then when I finished my university and everything kind of stopped, I was like, well, now is the time. So I just get to know about Ukraine Action Summit, that actually I can go to congressman offices, tell my story, tell the story of my military friends, of people like Vlad. I can bring them if they're coming, real people, real stories. And then I started, basically doing advocacy professionally, posting that on my socials. Then I was like, yes, I'm a rally person, so I'll stand every day at the Capitol Hill until they got supplemental for Ukraine, which is fun. Yeah, and that's all turned out to be my full-time job basically right now.
What can we do? Because I assume the Ukraine funding, I don't know how seriously they're taking it in the new budget, but what are you doing right now? And how can, like, if I want to show up and rally as well, like, or do something to help, like, what can I do?
So rallies are every day. We have like basic rallies. They every day you can follow Ukraine Rally DC on basically all social media. And the guy, American guy Robert, he's posting every day updates on the
Yeah.
time or place. So just everyone know. And it's rather on Capitol Hill when Congress is in session or White House.
And Robert, just for those who don't know, Robert has been out protesting for Ukraine literally every day since the full-scale invasion started, sometimes at the White House, sometimes at Capitol Hill. But he is remarkably hardcore. And every day he has a sign with just the number of days since the full-scale invasion. And it's also the number of days that he's been out holding a sign. So he's a remarkable guy, and he some of you may know him from the videos of Umbrella Man. He's the guy that Umbrella Man sort of attacked and chest bumped. But he's all but he he's the sort of animating spirit behind this everyday protest rally.
But then, except for that, I also do a bunch of individual bigger events where we fundraise or just raise awareness. For example, this month on 18th, we will have the rally at the White House dedicated to Azovstal defenders and them being in captivity for the past 3 years. They are not just exchanging them because they feel like Azov is Nazis. That's what propaganda says, which is not true, absolutely. Then the same day, after we have the commemoration of, the deportation of Crimean Tatar date. So we'll be also having a vigil on I believe World War II Memorial. And on June 1st, very important, we have a community run for Ukrainian kids because it's International Children's Day and it's the same day in Ukraine. And we'll be actually raising money for Save Ukraine, the organization who helped Vlad come back. Because when USAID cut, they lost a lot of funding, and they're not just saving kids. You can, it's not enough to just bring kids back from Russia and that's it. No. You have to help this kid return to life. You have to help his parents return to life. So they're building the huge rehabilitation center. They're integrating kids. They're giving them, education, a lot of stuff. Well, this is a platform Ben is showing right now where
this is also one of Marichka's projects.
Yeah, so we do these actions on the streets. As you may see, these are posters done by volunteers, just by our hands at night, usually. And we catch a lot of attention of media, of people around, even our military who are on rehabilitation here show up to support. So it gets, our message is more powerful every time. So just keep following me. I'm posting a lot of initiatives where you can join or donate to 100% approved organizations. And if you're interested,
are you mainly on Instagram or do you have other social media platforms?
I have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have TikTok, I have Blue Sky.
Okay.
Yeah. And I will say one other thing about Marichka, which is really important for those of you who are bewildered by the Ukraine fundraising environment where everybody's asking for money to do essentially the same thing. You can trust her, which is not true of everybody in this environment. And some people are and organizations are super trustworthy, and I've tried to spotlight a bunch of those on the some are trustworthy but just ineffective. Like they're not grifting, they're just not as good at it as other people. And some in every community there are some people who are more in it for themselves than in it for the cause. And one of the things that is very useful about Marichka and her colleagues is that they sift through a lot of the bullshit and identify who is really worth supporting, who's doing valuable work. And so if you follow her, you will, it's a very useful filter for who is worth supporting and who is worth avoiding. And I use her stuff that way, as well as whenever I have a question about somebody, she's one of the people I always bounce it off of. We are going to leave it there today. Marichka, please let us know when we can reschedule Vlad. Holly, I'm afraid what you're going to be when you grow up question is going to have to wait till the next thing. I still think you should go with the cult leader idea.
Put me in touch with Marichka, because maybe I can do something with the art. Marichka, I sold.
Yeah, no, show Marichka the stuff that you do.
I sold about 40 of these, and
so Holly makes these by hand.
Some art parties. What's great about this is it's actually art people can, other people can do. It's not like highly technical. And so I had art parties as well, where people came and helped make these, and then we sold them
Wow.
and raised about $1,500. But if you would like to do an art party to raise money for one of your organizations and people, anyway, we can do it various ways. Or if you want to do anything with this art, let me know.
You
I would
guys,
love.
I will put you guys in touch. You should know each other anyway. I'm kind of surprised that, given the last year of my life, that you've never run into each other in
Well, I
person.
think I have, because I've been to the Sunflower. I've been to some of I'm sure I've probably been at the same events as Marichka, but I don't know that I've actually met
Well,
her.
we're going to fix that imminently. Holly, Marichka, Greek chorus, you are all great Americans and great Ukrainians, and we are going to see you tomorrow. We have a very cool guest tomorrow, whom Alicia and I will be hosting. Join us then.